Ladies and gentlemen, there's a phrase I've heard many women whisper, sometimes out loud, but mostly in their own heads. I have no friends. It doesn't always mean she's completely alone. It can mean she doesn't feel understood. It can mean she's surrounded by people, but still feels invisible. And it can mean she's tired of being the one who always shows up, always gives, always pours. But when she needs someone, the room is empty. So let's break this into 6 truths, 6 keynotes that speak directly to that woman, a woman with no friends. That phrase can sound like a label, but for many, it feels like a reality. Not because she isn't likable, not because she isn't worthy, but because sometimes life carves out a season where she is left standing on her own. And in those moments, it's easy to confuse being alone with being broken. But being without friends does not mean something is wrong with you. It means you're human living through a part of your story that isn't always shown in the highlight reels of other people's lives. What we rarely talk about is how loneliness often has nothing to do with how many people are around you. You can have a crowd, a busy calendar, hundreds of contacts in your phone, and still feel unseen. Loneliness isn't the absence of people. It's the absence of connection. And when a woman says, I have no friends, what she's often saying is, I don't have anyone I can exhale around, anyone who sees me for me without the filters, without the need to earn my place. That's a different kind of ache. But here's what I want to tell her. Loneliness does not mean weakness. Wanting companionship is not a flaw. Craving a circle that understands you doesn't make you needy. It makes you real. You can be independent, capable, strong, and still long for connection. That doesn't reduce your strength. It deepens it. And sometimes the reason you have no friends right now isn't because you can't keep them, but because you've learned to let go of the wrong ones. You stopped making room for relationships built on gossip, competition, or convenience. You chose peace over performance, clarity over chaos. And when you do that, the room gets quiet. Calls fade, invitations slow down. But quiet doesn't equal failure. Sometimes quiet is proof of growth. Friendships are not accidents. They don't just drop in your lap like loose change. They're built slowly, brick by brick, through shared moments, honest conversations, and trust that has to be tested. If you don't have them yet, it doesn't mean you won't. It means you're in the space before the building begins. And in that space, solitude can become your sharpening ground. Because when you're alone, you start hearing yourself again. You rediscover what you actually like, what your boundaries really are, what you believe in when no one is around to influence you. That self-awareness becomes the filter that helps you choose better people later. You stop chasing crowds and start waiting for connection. You stop trying to be liked and start insisting on being understood. And that shift changes everything. So if you're looking at your life and wondering why others seem to have their circles while you're walking alone, remember, your timeline is not broken. Some women meet lifelong friends at 12, others at 42. There is no expiration date on connection. What feels like delay is often preparation. The friendships that last don't arrive rushed, they arrive ready. And when they do, they won't feel like work. You won't have to overthink your words, wonder if you belong, or question if their loyalty is real. The right friendships feel like breathing, like an exhale you didn't know you were holding in. And maybe that means fewer friends, but deeper ones. Because quality is not just better than quantity, it's safer. So to the woman with no friends, you are not less, you are not late, and you are not alone in this experience. You are in a chapter of your life that will make the next one richer. Don't confuse the silence of today with the emptiness of tomorrow. The right people, the ones who see you, the ones who stay, they're ahead of you. Until then, you have yourself, and that's a friend worth keeping. A woman with no friends often carries more weight in silence than most people ever see. On the surface, she may appear strong, capable, busy, even thriving. But when the noise of the day fades, when the house is quiet, when the notifications on her phone stop buzzing, the silence speaks back, and it says, "You are on your own." For some women, this silence feels unbearable. For others, it's become a strange kind of normal. Having no friends doesn't always mean she is unloved or unwanted. It can simply mean she has outgrown certain people, certain circles, certain versions of herself that no longer fit. Life has a way of stripping away connections that were never real in the first place. The friends who only stayed when you agreed with them, the ones who thrived on drama, the ones who disappeared the moment you needed something back. She learns that protecting her peace often costs her company. It's not easy to choose solitude over shallow relationships, but it's a choice that speaks of courage. Because it's easier to stay in toxic circles than to stand alone. And yet, that stand is what often begins the journey back to herself. Being alone doesn't make her weak. If anything, it sharpens her. She starts to hear her own voice again without the noise of other opinions. She learns what she actually likes instead of copying trends. She rediscovers what boundaries mean when no one is pressuring her to cross them. That kind of solitude is not punishment. It's preparation. Because when you know yourself deeply, you stop being desperate for company and start being discerning. You begin to value quality over quantity, depth over surface, peace over noise. That shift changes the kind of people you allow into your life. And it also changes the kind of person you become. You're no longer begging to belong. You're inviting the right people to build something real with you. And that difference creates friendships that last. And here's the truth about friendships. They are not found, they are built. We love the idea of finding our people like they're waiting in some secret corner of the world, ready to appear at the perfect time. But real friendships are not accidents. They are made brick by brick through honesty, effort, and consistency. If she has no friends right now, it doesn't mean she's destined to stay that way. It simply means her building season hasn't begun yet, and that's okay. Life is not a race. Some women meet their lifelong friends at 12, others at 42. There is no deadline for connection. The timeline you're on is the one you were meant to live. Social media may try to convince you that you're behind, that if you're not in a group photo at brunch or on a girl's trip every summer, you're somehow failing. But highlight reels don't tell the truth of friendship. Half the people in those photos feel lonely too, but they don't say it out loud. The truth is, friendships worth keeping don't need to be staged. They don't need proof. And when the right ones show up, you'll feel it. They won't feel like effort or performance. They'll feel like breathing. The right friendships don't demand that you shrink yourself, change your tone, or prove your worth. They simply give you space to exist as you are, flaws included, and still stay. That's why fewer friends can be better than many, because depth protects your soul in a way numbers never can. So to the woman with no friends, your story isn't sad, it's not over, and it's not broken. It's simply in the middle. The quiet you feel now isn't a permanent sentence. It's the soil where better connections can grow. Don't confuse today's silence with tomorrow's emptiness. The right people, the ones who stay, the ones who see you, are still ahead of you. And until they arrive, you still have yourself. And that's a friend worth keeping. A woman with no friends often walks through the world with a weight most people never notice. She shows up to work, she takes care of responsibilities, she posts the occasional smile online, and to everyone else it looks fine. But behind that surface is a quiet question that follows her: why do I feel so alone? Having no friends doesn't always mean she's disliked. It can mean she's the one who always gives but rarely receives. It can mean she's been burned too many times by people she trusted. Or it can mean she's simply in a season where life feels stripped down to just her and her thoughts. That kind of loneliness doesn't announce itself loudly. It just lingers quietly in the background. And the danger is believing that this loneliness makes her less, that needing companionship is a weakness. But it isn't. Wanting connection doesn't reduce your strength. It confirms you're human. You can be independent, capable, and resilient and still crave someone who gets you. That doesn't make you needy, it makes you real. The truth is, sometimes the reason a woman has no friends is because she chose herself over the wrong crowd. She walked away from people who thrived on gossip, who were loyal only when it was convenient, who drained her more than they filled her. She realized that protecting her peace meant losing their company. And that loss, while painful, was necessary, because peace is priceless even if it costs you company. The quiet that follows can feel heavy. The phone doesn't ring as much. The invitations stop. The group chats go silent. And in that silence, doubt creeps in. Maybe I'm too much. Maybe I'm not enough. Maybe I'm the problem. But the silence isn't rejection. It's space. Space to rediscover yourself without noise. Space to hear your own voice again. Space to ask, who am I, when no one else is in the room? And that solitude, while uncomfortable, becomes powerful. It sharpens your identity. You begin to remember your real likes, your boundaries, your values. You stop chasing approval and start standing in your truth. That shift changes the way you show up, and eventually, it changes the kind of people you attract. What we forget is that friendships don't fall from the sky. They are built, not found. We love the idea of stumbling across poor people. But in reality, deep friendships are made through consistent effort, honesty, and time. If she has no friends right now, it doesn't mean she never will. It means the building hasn't started yet. And there's no deadline for when it should. Some women meet their best friends in school, others in the middle of their lives, some even later. Connection has no expiration date. It's easy to feel behind when you scroll through social media, seeing group trips and birthday dinners, but comparison hides the truth. Plenty of people in those photos still feel lonely. Plenty of them wish for the same depth you're longing for. The truth is, the right friendships won't feel like work or performance. They won't make you question if you belong. They'll feel like breathing, like an exhale you didn't realize you were holding. That's what makes them worth the wait. Fewer but deeper friendships often matter more than a crowded circle, because quality protects your heart in a way quantity never can. So to the woman with no friends, this is not the end of your story. You are not broken, and you are not behind. You are in a season that feels quiet, but quiet does not mean empty. It means you are in the middle of becoming. And when the right people arrive, you will meet them with a stronger sense of self, with clearer boundaries, with the ability to recognize what's real. Until then, you still have you. And you are a friend worth keeping. A woman with no friends carries a quiet story. From the outside, people might assume she's fine, she's working, she's showing up, she's smiling in photos. But inside, she feels the ache of conversations that never happen, calls that never come, and moments that feel too heavy to carry alone. Having no friends doesn't mean she's unworthy or unlikable. It can mean she gave too much of herself to people who didn't give back. It can mean she's walked through seasons of betrayal or disappointment that left her cautious. Or it can simply mean she's in a chapter of life where connection hasn't caught up with her yet. And in that chapter, the silence can feel louder than words. But being without friends doesn't mean she's broken. It doesn't mean she's behind. It means she's human in a very real part of the journey that no one posts about online. What many forget is that sometimes not having friends is the cost of protecting your peace. There comes a moment when a woman realizes she can't keep shrinking herself to fit into places she's outgrown. She can't keep saying yes to people who only show up for convenience or who bring more chaos than comfort. So she steps back. She deletes the number. She stops chasing. She chooses her peace instead of her people. And yes, the result is quiet. The texts slow down, the invites disappear, the crowd gets thinner. And in that quiet, she starts to wonder if she made a mistake. But silence is not a mistake. It's a reset, a space where her energy begins to heal and her voice grows clearer. She starts remembering what she truly likes, what she actually believes in, and what kind of connections she's no longer willing to settle for. The truth is, friendships are not found like lost coins. They are built, brick by brick, moment by moment, through trust that takes time to form. If she has no friends right now, it's not a permanent state. It's simply the space before building begins. And building requires risk. It means putting yourself out there again, knowing you've been let down before. It means giving trustfully but choosing to try anyway. And it also means accepting that not every connection will last, but some will. The ones that do will be the ones worth keeping. Because real friendships don't need performance. They don't demand that you water yourself down or second guess your worth. They give you space to be. And that kind of connection is worth waiting for, even if the wait feels long. So when a woman looks at her life and says, "I have no friends," it isn't the end of her story. It's simply a chapter of transition. A chapter where she learns that her timeline isn't broken. Some people meet their lifelong friends at 12, others at 42. There is no right age, no perfect deadline. And when those right people show up, she'll know, because they won't feel like work. They'll feel like breathing. She won't have to question if they mean what they say or if they'll disappear when she needs them most. They'll stay. They'll see her. And until that day comes, she still has herself. And that's a friend worth keeping. A woman with no friends often feels invisible in a world that seems so loud. She scrolls through endless feeds filled with group pictures, inside jokes, and weekend getaways, and wonders why her life doesn't look the same. But the truth is, not having friends doesn't mean she's broken. It doesn't mean she's unworthy. It means her story is unfolding differently in a quieter chapter, one that most people don't talk about, but many silently understand. Because loneliness isn't always the absence of people. Sometimes it's being surrounded and still feeling unseen, unheard, and misunderstood. That kind of loneliness lingers, and it whispers lies like, "You're not enough," or "You're too much." But those are just lies. The truth is, craving connection doesn't make her weak, it makes her human. What many don't realize is that sometimes she has no friends because she chose peace over noise. She realized that keeping certain people close was costing her more than it gave. She walked away from drama, from fake loyalty, from relationships where she had to perform just to be accepted. And when you make that choice, the room gets quieter. The calls stop coming. The invites disappear, and suddenly she's alone. But that loneliness is not failure. It's a boundary. It's proof she values her own well-being enough to let go of what was unhealthy. And in that letting go, she starts to rediscover herself. She begins to remember what she actually enjoys, what her true boundaries are, and who she is when she's not bending to fit into someone else's version of her. And while this season of solitude can sting, it's not wasted. Because in solitude, her identity sharpens. She learns to sit with her own thoughts, to like her own company, to understand that being alone is not the same as being unworthy. This shift changes everything. Because when she knows herself, she no longer begs for company. She chooses it. She no longer chases crowds. She waits for connections that feel real. And this difference makes her presence stronger, her boundaries clearer, and her friendships deeper. But we must remember that friendships aren't just found, they're built. They take time, effort, and patience. They are created through consistency and trust, not by accident. So if she has no friends right now, it doesn't mean she never will. It means her building hasn't begun, and there is no rush, no expiration date. Some women meet their truest friends in school, others at midlife, some even later. Social media might try to convince her that she's behind, but life doesn't follow a single timeline. The highlight reels don't show the truth. Many of those people with large groups still feel lonely inside. real friendship isn't about numbers. It's about depth. And when the right friendships finally come, they won't feel like work or performance. They'll feel like ease, like breathing out after holding your breath. The right friends will see her without judgment, will stay without conditions, will allow her to be fully herself. She may not have many of them, but the ones she does have will be worth everything. That's why her story isn't sad. It's not over, and it's not broken. It's simply unfolding. To the woman with no friends, you're quiet today doesn't mean emptiness tomorrow. The right people, the ones who stay, are still ahead. And until they arrive, you have yourself. And that's a friend worth keeping. A woman with no friends carries a story that often goes untold. She may look strong, put together, even successful, but inside she feels the weight of silence where laughter and companionship should be. Not having friends doesn't mean she's unworthy or unlovable. It means she's living through a season that is quieter, a season that tests her. Loneliness doesn't mean she's weak. It means she's human. And the need for connection isn't something to be ashamed of. Wanting someone to understand you, to sit with you without judgment, to notice when you're not okay. That isn't weakness. It's the most natural part of being alive. Sometimes the reason she has no friends is because she chose her peace over the wrong company. She stopped bending herself small to fit into places that drained her. She walked away from people who took but never gave, who loved her in public but abandoned her in private. Choosing herself meant losing them, and that loss left a quiet space. But silence after chaos isn't punishment, it's protection. And it takes courage to stand in that kind of quiet, because most people would rather stay surrounded by noise than risk being alone. In that quiet, something else begins to happen. She starts to hear her own voice again. She begins to rediscover what she likes, what her boundaries are, and what she truly values. She learns to enjoy her own company, to sit with herself and realize that being alone isn't the same as being empty. This solitude shapes her into someone who doesn't chase crowds, but waits for connections that feel true. It sharpens her, strengthens her, and teaches her to choose quality over quantity. And in time, this makes her presence powerful. But we need to remember that friendships aren't magically found. They're built. They are created through effort, honesty, and time. If she has no friends right now, it doesn't mean she never will. It means her building hasn't started yet. And there's no timeline for when it should. Some people meet their lifelong friends in school, others in their 40s, others even later. Life doesn't work on a schedule, and she is not behind. Social media might convince her that everyone else is surrounded by friends, but pictures don't tell the whole story. Even people in big groups can feel lonely. The truth is, when the right friendships finally arrive, they won't feel forced. She won't need to question their loyalty or wonder if she's too much or not enough. They'll feel like ease, like exhaling after holding her breath for too long. They won't require performance. They'll invite presence. And those kinds of friendships may be fewer, but they will be deeper. Because true connection isn't about how many people surround you. It's about who will sit with you when the room gets quiet. So to the woman with no friends, you are not broken, you are not late, and you are not destined to stay here forever. This season of quiet is not the end of your story, it's simply the middle. The right people, the ones who see you, who stay, who understand without you having to explain, those people are still ahead of you. And until they arrive, you still have yourself. And that is not nothing. That is everything. Because being your own friend is the first friendship that makes all the others possible.